AInewsdaily.ca is a website that gives you AI-generated news across 1,000 plus topics, 96 global cities, and daily features. Plus, for VIP subscribers, AI-generated images, tarot readings, natal charts, investment tips, bet predictions, and drill wars, a text and image-based life simulator game set in Toronto's drill scene. One VIP subscription unlocks it all. During our We Love Hip Hop promotion, all new VIP subscribers receive a $2.50 USD wallet credit. www.ainewsdaily.ca. That's www.ainewsdaily.ca.
A young refugee from Afghanistan who came to Canada with his single parent mother. In a 2012 hip hop video, Jamshaid Wahabi is in his element, rapping with other newcomers about finding their way in a new country after fleeing a war zone. Wahabi had thrived with the encouragement and mentoring received while they were making the video for Live from 95, said Ajapito, a boxing coach who tried to recruit the scrappy young man for the ring. He was good at fighting. It was hard as a newcomer coming to Canada and you don't know anyone and you're trying to survive. Sometimes you get involved with the wrong people. He was trying to do good, said the boxing coach. After struggling in his teens, Wahabi was working in construction for the last 3 years, said Abdi Ahmed, director of Immigration Partnership Winnipeg. Ahmed had known Wahabi since 2008 when he was a youth worker at Immigrant and Refugee Organization of Manitoba, Community Organization of Manitoba, or IRCOM. I provided mentorship to Jamshaid for a long time, he said, noting Wahabi was a good kid who wanted to help his younger brother and 2 sisters. His mother looked up to him a lot, and we talked many times, said Ahmed, who shared with the Free Press one of the concerned but encouraging messages he'd sent to Wahabi before the young man turned himself around. Still from a documentary on the making of life from 95, a 2012 hip-hop video featuring Jamshaid and Wahabi, they're rapping with other newcomer kids about finding their way in the new country after fleeing a war zone. They went on to comment that he went through the trauma of the conflict in Afghanistan. There were not many supports for such kids. His school did not understand him, Ahmed said from Indonesia, where he's attending a conference. They were not prepared for kids with interrupted schooling like Jamshaid, which led to his disillusionment with the system, just like many other kids like him. If you have to start in the first grade, especially you don't have a lot of English comprehension, and you're in your mid to late teens, school doesn't even seem like a viable or realistic pursuit. Ajapito and Irvin Chartrand, an ex-gang member, made the hip-hop video Live from 95, featuring Wahabi and other youth from IRCOM. They also made a documentary about its creation 9 years ago. In it, Chartrand said he could relate to the then 16-year-old Wahabi. Jamshaid's kind of on the brink of going in the wrong direction, Chartrand says in the documentary. I know he doesn't have a father, and I think that plays a big role. He has a lot of potential. Hopefully he pulls himself out of it. Ajapito recalled how Wahabi opened up at the time, finding his voice in his second language. The guy was put out of his comfort zone, he said. He participated and he liked the idea that people care about him and will push him. While Chartrand and Ajapito's project was well received, it was the time they spent with the young subjects after the cameras were turned off that mattered most. We knew the importance of staying with those kids and being someone who's a constant, a person they could depend on, Ajapito said. One of the youth participants, for example, went on to study journalism at Ryerson University in Toronto, he said. We ended up staying for 11 months to a year hanging out. even if we didn't do anything that day, you could see it had an impact. On Saturday, November the 2nd, 2019, he became Winnipeg's 38th homicide victim of that year. The 23-year-old was shot to death at Citizen Nightclub on Bannatyne Avenue in the Exchange District on November 2nd, 2019 at 1:25 a.m. Emergency personnel responded to a shooting at a nightclub in the 200 block of Bannatyne Avenue. A deceased male was located and identified as Jamshaid Wahabi, a 23-year-old male. Police said the shooting happened because of a dispute between two rival criminal organizations. So what it sounds like is there's a shootout outside of a nightclub between two, informal gangs that are from different blocks, and as a result, Jamshaid has lost his life. He's involved in this. So after the shooting, police said an associate of Wahabi shot at rival gang members outside of the nightclub, and that there were several bystanders in the area at the time. Police said after the shooting, one group began planning to kill Wahabi's shooter as an act of retaliation. So they get in a shootout. Wahabi's buddy there shoots back. So they had this shootout. Wahabi's now lost his life, and they're saying that, look, we think this guy survived. We're gonna figure out a way to kill this guy. Whoever this guy was. The guy that they're planning to kill goes by Moulebou. So he fatally shot 23-year-old Jamshaid Wahabi, Jamshaid Wahabi's brother, inside Citizen Nightclub. Okay? Both the prosecution and defense accepted the fact that Moulebou was the killer. Moulebou moved to the city of Winnipeg from South Africa and attended high school at Daniel McIntyre Collegiate. He was well known and a popular football player at the school, and he won a championship with the team in 2017. Okay, so this guy comes in from South Africa. They say, hey, pretty big guy, you ever play football? You think play football? Yeah, I'll play, I'm here, They takes them to the chip. But jurors heard evidence that Jamshaid Wahabi and others immediately began searching for Moulebou and found him 2 days later at a residential rental property on Timsale Drive. The jurors heard the three accused who were involved in this, and Nduta among them, jointly plotted Moulebou's murder, with Haroon and Mohammed agreeing to shoot him. So Haroon, Mohammed, Nduta, and Wahabi are all planning on getting retaliation and murder against Moulebou, who was the initial shooter at the nightclub that killed the younger Wahabi. Okay, so the Crown's case hinged on the testimony of Arnold Nduta, who was also initially charged with Moulebou's November 4th, 2019 murder. Okay, so the first incident happens on the 2nd. By the 4th, on Timsale Drive, the initial shooter is murdered. So the get back took 2 days. But this guy was later granted immunity from prosecution in return for his testimony. So, they had about 3 or 4 guys hemmed up on this body One of them decides to roll on the rest of them, and they say, we'll give you full immunity. You have to testify. Tabitha Grieve, who was Induda's on-again, off-again girlfriend at the time, testified she and a friend had rented the Tim Sale drive home for the month of October. So when she says her and a friend, they kind of, sometimes when somebody starts testifying, they start talking about them like they don't know who they are, even though they've identified them. It seems that Tabitha Grieve and Induta were the ones who rented this Airbnb. This was for an entire month in October. So they say via an online service. They're talking about Airbnb. After returning from a trip to Montreal on November 2nd, this is her story. She found the entry code to the home had been changed and Moulebou was occupying it. So her story, she has no idea how Moulebou got to the house. A man opened the door, who we later found out was Rig, Grieve said. So Moulebou also went by Rig. That was his a short version of his first name. Grieve said she spent the night at a hotel and returned to the house the next day to pick up her belongings, after which Rig Moulebou accompanied her on errands. So her story is she gets to the house on November the 2nd. Okay. So 2 days before the murder, basically, when this murder happened, she says that she shows up there and Moulebou's in this house. So it's Rig's just here. So she says, well, okay, I'll just go to a hotel. And then she comes to the house the next day to grab her stuff. And hey, since Rig's here, what you want to come hang out with me and we'll go run a few errands? So at this time he had a dirty t-shirt wrapped around his leg with a wound on it, she said. Okay, so this is after the shooting occurs. Obviously because he's been shot, right? So right after the shooting occurs, he's apparently off in a house on Tim Sale that had been rented for a B&B. I don't know if Moulebou had some ties to that house. Is that his parents' house that was getting rented out on B&B? I don't know. I mean, I don't know. Or his sponsors, old sponsors, or somebody he stayed with. I don't really know how any of this could possibly make any sense to anybody. But Grieve, she says that she had called the owner of the house, who agreed to let her stay for a couple of more days. She said she woke the next morning to find Moulebou in bed with her, pushing her for sex, to which she ultimately agreed. You know, I feel like maybe, I don't know, maybe it's almost like sometimes it's like maybe it's true because you'd think he'd come up with a better story. I don't know how this girl's living. I don't know what she's talking about. It sounds like maybe just a theory put out there. And I don't know. That she might not be being truthful about what she's saying. But apparently she says she ultimately agreed to have sex with him. Later that day, after police knocked on the door looking for the owner of the house, Grieve had called Induta to pick her up. Okay, so police show up at their house. They're looking for the owner. And she says, okay, I don't know what's really going on. This is when Induta arrives. And so she said, well, she didn't want to stay there, but she didn't have anywhere else to stay. So Induta gets there after she called him. just for a ride or trying to figure out somewhere else what's going on. And he asks her to step out of the house. She said she was confused why he asked her that. It was winter and she didn't have her coat on. Why get out of the house? I'm not quite ready to go, or I'm not sure what she's talking about. As she exited, two men wearing masks and gloves walked from around the corner and into the house. I heard 2 gunshots almost immediately, she said. Grieven and Duda took her by the shoulders to a waiting car where they were quickly joined by the 2 masked men who sat in the back seat. Jurors were told Moulebou was shot 11 times in the head and torso as he slept. Okay, so, I mean, that's what's on the record. Okay. Now, so evidence against the 3 accused included intercepted cell phone conversations and cell tower transmissions showing their locations at the time of the killing. On November 7th, 2019, the day of Wahabi's funeral, police were tipped off that Rami Hagos, a man wanted on a Canada-wide warrant for his alleged involvement in Moulebou's shooting, was at the funeral. Hagos, 25, was stopped by the officers and a .50 caliber handgun was seized. Okay, if anybody knows a little bit about guns. Okay, if you have a .50 caliber handgun, okay, you're talking about some big shit. Okay, you get hit with that. All right, you might start jumping for the rim. Okay, you might try to go for a rebound. You get hit with that shit. A .50 cal. He had it on him. An investigation traced the gun to a house on Marine Drive in the Norman Park area where it was registered to, where police seized 22 more guns, including 4 .50 caliber semi-automatic handguns. Between February 28th and 27th, 3 people were arrested for the first-degree murder in the death of Moulebou. In early April, police began an investigation focusing on 3 high-level drug traffickers in the city. Search warrants were executed on Hope Bay and Bonaventure East in the Island Lakes area, and Creek Bend Road in St. Vital. A number of individuals were taken into custody, and the investigation led to the seizure of the following. About 5 kilograms of cocaine. At that time, the estimated value is about $450,000. Okay, so you're talking about 90 a key Canadian dollars. Approximately 2.5 kilos of cutting agent. Okay, so they were stretching it. Approximately $190,000 in Canadian currency. Okay, the whole re-up is in the house with the drugs. Okay, well, I don't know. There were seizures. There were a number of people taken into custody. I can't say that those 2 were in the same place, but they got the re-up, they got the dope, they got the cut, a large amount of packaging material along with the money counter and a scale, 13 mobile phones, and $20,000 worth of gold jewelry. Okay, so these are guys they were outside. Okay, money counter. Okay, right? So, you know, the arrests were a significant blow to 2 gangs, said Pike. We're talking about first-degree murder. We're talking about charges relative to criminal organizations. These are substantive charges that carry potentially large sentences with them, he said. Tie in the drug element with them as well. I think there's definitely some impact. In the drug world, dealing with cocaine and other drugs, they're historically imported from somewhere else, be it across the country, be it from another country. I can't say specifically with this group where it came in, but clearly they were getting their hands on large quantities of illicit drugs and getting them into the city. Many of those arrested were believed to be responsible for other offenses, some of which were in relation to benefiting their criminal organization, police said. Okay, so once they nabbed everybody up, the charges was for Jamshaid Wahabi, who's 23 years old at the time, of Winnipeg. He's charged with first-degree murder in Moulebou's death, conspiracy to commit murder, uttering threats in association with the criminal organization. Manashir Haroon is 23 at the time of Brandon. He was charged with first-degree murder and conspiracy to commit murder. Abdulali Abdul Rahman Mohammed, who was 24 at the time of Winnipeg, was charged with first-degree murder for the Moulebou murder, conspiracy to commit murder, and kidnapping. Okay, Rami Hagos, 25 of Winnipeg, he is charged with attempted murder, which was outside of the Citizen Nightclub, attempted murder in association with the criminal organization, 13 firearms-related offenses, failing to comply with prior court orders. Okay, so what they amended the story when it got to court was that Rami Hagos was the one that was firing back on Moulebou in the initial Citizen Nightclub shooting, where the other Wahabi brother lost his life. There's also 6 other men between the ages of 21 and 29, along with the 25-year-old woman, who were all charged with various offenses, some of which included possession of stolen property, possession of drugs for the purpose of trafficking, participation in a criminal organization, assault, and failing to comply with court orders. So, ultimately, we're focusing now on the 3 men that were accused in Moulebou's murder. But you have to put the whole situation into perspective as to where we are at this point. Okay, so we have high-level traffickers that are in a nightclub. A disagreement happens. One of them is shot and killed. They shoot back, wounding the shooter. He finds himself at a Timsale Drive home for whatever reason. He's with this girl. For whatever reason, this girl calls this guy who's with these killers to come to the house where the revenge killing took place. So once that killing happened and things started to unravel from that, they start digging deeper into these suspects and come to find out that they're operating a criminal organization of drug traffickers, and they turn this down into bringing down an entire organization. In the United States, it would be more similar to like a RICO case or something of that, where you have a criminal organization that's being brought down. So lawyers for the 3 men accused in the murder of Rig Moulebou argued that other than Induda's testimony, there was no direct evidence tying them to Moulebou's slaying. Induda told jurors that Induda, is what the lawyers said, had everything to gain and nothing to lose by lying to the court. Wahabi's lawyer, Ryan Amy, argued Induda's lies allowed him to escape prosecution and deportation, and having his housing needs and other expenses paid for by the state. Okay, so snitching is, it's a lucrative game. A jury had convicted the 3 men of first-degree murder in the revenge killing of 20-year-old Rig Debak Moulebou. Okay. So he killed him, they got the get back, now they're all going to prison. Jurors returned their verdict against Jamshaid Wahabi, Abdullahi Mohammed, and Munasher Haroon on the night of Wednesday, November 24th, 2021, after more than a full day of deliberations. All 3 men were convicted of additional counts of conspiracy to commit murder. The mandatory sentence for first-degree murder is life in prison with chance of parole after 25 years. Okay, that's it. 25 with an L, and there's no saying you get out at the 25, period, or ever. It's as close to capital murder as what there is. There's no worse charge to eat. You blew trial. You didn't plead. You blew that. First degree, 25 to life for all 3 of you. Violence begets more bloodshed and violence. You know, Rig got the better of the initial bang out he had with his ops outside of the now permanently closed Citizen nightclub. It sounds like he sustained a nasty leg as in the process. An infected leg wound didn't slow the young fella down when he got the suspiciously timed opportunity to rendezvous with the dude's girlfriend. His mind was on smashing strangers instead of getting low. There are things that Rig wasn't wise of. First, he underestimated how hungry his new ops were for their get back. Also, he was smart enough not to go to a hospital. However, he still needed medical attention. Perhaps a veterinarian could have been pressured or bribed into treating the gun wound, a triage nurse or former military medic, some private doctor, or someone who could be reliably called upon to treat the wound should have been arranged prior to running around with the gun and having shootouts in the street. Or failing that, it should have been attempted after the wound was sustained. Secondly, he needed to be weary of the oldest play in the playbook, the honeypot, the Mona Lisa, or the back door. It goes without saying the story she gave made no sense. Running errands with the leg wound, him already being there somehow in the B&B she had been renting a month prior, then she goes to Montreal but comes back. The woman lured him there. Or she wasn't there by coincidence. She knew he would be there when he would be there. Rig probably thought that he was a real stud. She probably told him she used to watch his football games. You know, so there he is, ass naked, literally, no pistol, and got a fresh body out here. You know, he hit the wrong guy. He should have been keen to that when his victim's right-hand shooter Ramos put a hole through his leg in the gunfight. It comes down to Rig took the situation way too lightly. Rig got packed pretty much immediately for that. Swiss cheesed and left in the B&B. If the ops didn't get him, then the soon-to-be gangrenous leg wound may have ended him either way. 50 cal on the one boy, it sounds like this kid probably got hit with some big shit. Golly. All I can say is be mindful of that get back when you let your gun go and understand new bodies means new ops. Many people make the mistake of thinking the bang out can't be traced back to them once they flee the scene and are free and clear. The streets talk, people getting hit in a crowd of people, obviously out of all of them, someone's seen who you were there with. It's not hard to get information like social media. He should have got out of town. And that still doesn't guarantee anything. He had the makings of a varsity athlete. The problem was these streets aren't a game, and when you play outside, you're playing for keeps. Winnipegology.